So you walk into the bathroom and there are more yellow leaves on the floor, and the frustration just starts to hit you because you've done everything right. And because you think it's a low light plant, it should be absolutely fine, right, in its spot. But it's not. It's obviously not, with all the frickin' yellow leaves. Urgh. Well, the problem isn't that plant hates you. Well, it might despise you a little bit right now. But honestly, it's because the low light plant advice you've seen everywhere is honestly missing a whole lot of context. And it's just one of 7 pieces of advice that I need to share with you because I get so frustrated when I hear some of them on social media. So let's talk about the most misleading 3 words in houseplant care industry. And I'm about to say this as someone who genuinely has a very dark house with plants everywhere, with a lot of grow lights admittedly. Low light plants. It's on the label, it's all over Pinterest, it's almost in every guide you've ever read. So you find a corner, you pop your low light plant, you water it a little bit less perhaps, and you think, okay, all sorted, gonna leave it there, it's gonna be happy. But here's what that label actually means. It means that plant is not going to die immediately. That's the whole promise of that plant. That plant is more tolerant of lower light conditions, more than perhaps another plant you might buy. That's it. That's what a low light plant label actually means. It doesn't mean it likes low light. It doesn't mean it's going to be happy in that spot. It means it's just going to be okay. And okay might look like this. Very slow growth, maybe no growth at all. You might get some leggy, stretched version that you're looking at right now. That is low light doing its job. And if that plant is stretching, that plant is actually reaching and searching for more light. But of course, nobody's going to tell you that when you're standing at the shop counter handing over your money to buy that low light plant now, are they? Okay, next one. So, have you ever been told, oh, your plant loves being root bound, or she loves being root bound? I have, and honestly, I've said it, right? Especially about my 𝗟𝗄𝗧 here. My 𝗟𝗧 actually doesn't mind being root bound in the pot. And I did believe that for a long time, actually. So what root bound actually looks like in real life is when roots are circling the pot. Inside, perhaps, they might be coming out of the bottom of the drainage holes. And after a while, your plant growth slows down. It might even actually stop growing altogether. And it's not obvious either right at the beginning, unless you actually know what the signs are, what to look for. Now, don't get me wrong, my 𝗟𝗧 does suit a pot with slightly root-bound conditions. And that's because the 𝗟𝗧 plant itself, the bulbs down the bottom, they hold a lot of water in those bulbs under the soil. So technically, this 𝗟𝗧 plant doesn't need as much soil around the base to hold the moisture. There are other plants out there, like the peace lily is a great example. They'll actually put their energy into more flowers and more leaves when their roots are slightly snug in a pot. Now, technically, you might think that plant is happy because it's giving you flowers, but actually it's the mild stress that it's seeing in the roots that triggers the reproductive impulse of that plant, because flowers are just there to help that plant, pollinate elsewhere and reproduce. So there is a version of your plant being root bound that works for you. But you just need to know exactly why it's happening and what to watch for. And then you can understand it's still technically not the best for the plant long term. Root bound is not a personality trait, it's a condition. And whether it's working for your plant or against it, that's what you actually need to know and how you want it to work for you. Now, this next one makes me a little bit ragey because I've never liked it, I've never done it, and it never seems to help me with my pots. And I see it all the time. But because of this video, I actually wanted to test if it was real or not, if my rage was real, basically. So I researched it properly, and I even found out that I'm a little bit wrong on this one. So let's get geeky for a couple of seconds. Some people will tell you to put rocks as a drainage layer right at the base of your pot, of the base of the soil of your plant. Now, the science says when you put the rocks at the bottom of your pot, the water actually prefers to sit at the space at the very bottom of the soil, just above the rocks. So that's almost that space in between. Because the water is actually more attracted to the soil particles above than it is attracted to that empty space in the rocks below. So the soil directly above that drainage layer, above the rocks, has to be really 100% saturated before any of the water will fall into the space, into the rocks below. So you've essentially just raised the level of saturation on a more consistent basis of the actual soil in your pot. Isn't that crazy? I find that really, really fascinating actually. However, there is also some research out there that suggests that the drainage layer will help increase the drainage somewhat in your pots. So there's two different stories all out there based on research supposedly. And this is exactly why if you go onto Reddit, you might go down this huge rabbit hole of people arguing or absolutely almost losing their mind on their view from both sides of the coin. I definitely have my view, because for me, I'm picking a side. I am, and honestly, that side is do not bother with the drainage layer. For me, I think it's just a little bit more of a risk because I feel like I've found a little bit of a better way anyway. So you don't need to bother with drainage layer in the potting mix. Don't worry about that. Instead, what you can do, here's the pot, is put the drainage layer, instead of putting it in the pot, put it between the plant pot itself and the saucer or the outer layer. So I've got, can you see that? I've got a bit of drainage in this layer here. See that? I've got drainage, I've got rocks in the pot, but not in the plant pot, right? So that for me means that the water can go straight through in one direction, not the band, in one direction, top to bottom. It's clean drainage. There's no gravel actually in the soil itself, so there's no argument and it still drains through easily. But for me, don't put the gravel in the pots. I think it's a waste of time. Put it between the inner and outer pot. Easy peasy, bish bosh bash, and your plant is healthy. Okay, let's put him back. There is nothing worse than repotting a plant, feeling like a genuinely good plant parent, and then slowly watching it decline for 2 or 3 months and not really understanding why. I did this recently. I propagated this beautiful big, I had a 𝗟𝗟𝗥𝗧𝗃𝗏, and I propagated it, and the stem, the base which was left, was a much smaller plant than it was before because I basically cut off all of this bare stem and the leaves up the top. But the root ball was still a decent size, so I kept it in the same bigger pot, which seemed logical at the time because there's still roots there, right? Still a big amount of roots, so I need a big pot. Nope, it wasn't right at all, unfortunately. I did not have enough plant, and therefore it couldn't get enough energy to use up all the soil, all the fertilizing that I was giving it, and all the water around it. So the poor thing just sat there wet for too long, for too many weeks, and the plant declined. And so now that plant doesn't exist anymore, not the base anymore. So instead I have these little cuttings, which I'm holding here. So I have cuttings, but not the original mama plant, which is just annoying. Damn it. Live and learn, hey? Anyway, because here's the bit that nobody adds to that, right? My plant got smaller, therefore it couldn't get as much energy, didn't have as many leaves and getting all of that sun. So actually my pot should have gone a little bit smaller again as well. I was needing to match the pot to what the plant is actually doing right now. Not what it was, that's what I did. Not what it's going to be in 7, 12 months time, what it is right now. So how big is that root ball compared to the plant size? And then how fast does your specific pot and potting mix dry out in your actual home with your actual light? That's the full advice. You've got to see how they all kind of work together. Don't just go up one size willy-nilly, right? You don't just go bigger for no reason. But a bigger pot isn't always necessarily the better thing to do. Okay, I'll put my hands up. I am a potting mix nerd, like genuinely embarrassingly specific almost about this kind of stuff. I honestly have different mixes for different types of plants. I've literally tweaked my plant recipes, my potting mix recipes over the years, over the last 5 or 6 years. And trust me, I have strong opinions on chunky soil mix ratios, as you do. Plant nerd 101. I know. Anyway, and yet I am fully aware that I'm about to contradict myself in about 2 seconds because fancy soil is actually sold as a scam. There, I said it. Because the plant world treats these kind of substrate recipes like it's magic, right? Like the right mix is going to fix everything for your plants. But your plants rely on a full ecosystem, and no amount of magic ingredients is going to fix a broken ecosystem. So if your light is wrong, the mix can't save you. If your watering is all over the place, the mix won't save you. If your container is way too big, like before, the mix absolutely cannot save you. Trust me, been there a few times. Your soil is the foundation. It's the first piece, and getting that right to me means a lot, but it's not the only piece. The light, the watering, the humidity, the environment in your home, it all has to work together for your poor little plants. It's an ecosystem, and a beautiful, carefully crafted mix sitting in a broken ecosystem, unfortunately, is just almost like expensive compost. Get the foundations right first, yes, but then just make sure everything else around it works with it. Now, this next one I get, I really do actually. Life is busy and picking a watering day feels like it's organized, right? It feels like you're being a good plant parent and technically you're not going to forget to water. And honestly, that's exactly how I started. Water every Sunday. That's the advice I got. That's what I did. And I followed it, right? But watering on a schedule, honestly, that's just lazy advice, I hate to say it, because your plant doesn't care what day it is, right? It doesn't care that it's a Sunday, right? It cares whether it needs some water. And yet if you're watering on a schedule, you're not accounting for the last few weeks that might have been overcast or it's more humid. It doesn't work if you've turned the heating on over the last month. It doesn't know if your mix is drying out twice as fast in summer as it is right now, perhaps. So with that advice, here's the distinction that actually matters. Using a day as a reminder to go and check your plants, brilliant. Absolutely do that. That's what I recommend. That is a system. But using that same day as an automatic trigger on whether they need the water, regardless of what they actually need, that's not consistency. That's honestly just being a bit lazy, let's be honest. And more likely, you're probably just wasting a lot of water that way anyway. And then I have 2 words for you. Easy care. You see these words printed on almost every other plant in every store, like every garden centre, every supermarket, every online listing. A lot of plants are labelled as easy care. And in a way, I think that's one of the single most misleading things in this entire hobby. Because here's what easy care actually means. It just means this plant is not going to die on you immediately if you ignore it. That's the promise. That's it, right? So what does easy care actually mean? This is the nuance. It means it will tolerate inconsistency better than some of your other plants. So this is 𝗟𝗏𝗳𝗆𝗃𝗃, which is known as a very easy care plant. It's definitely one of the plants I recommend if you're a beginner, because if it goes for a little bit too dry, for a bit too long, it'll bounce back. If you overwater it slightly for 1 week, it'll probably be okay. Easy care just means that the plant is more forgiving of imperfect care, which is great for beginners. It doesn't mean it does not need any care whatsoever. It does not thrive on neglect. It just tolerates a little bit of inconsistency better than most other plants. So while I still recommend this plant as a fantastic beginner plant, it's not a easy care plant, which means you don't look after it whatsoever. So the fix is honestly just try to match the plant that you're buying to your actual life, because people find different plants easy to care for, right? I think 𝗟𝗏𝗳𝗆𝗔𝗥𝗧s are actually super easy for me now. Others absolutely don't, right? Easy care just means it's easy for your care, your time, your actual home conditions. And honestly, that's the only easy care that actually works, and I am all here for it. So buy plants that suit your conditions in your home. Still beautiful though. So there you have it, 7 pieces of advice that sound completely reasonable, that come from people who genuinely do know plants. I'm not saying they don't. They're all over the internet, all over Reddit, all over YouTube, including probably this channel at some point, if I'm really being honest. And they're all partially right. They're just missing a bit of background context that might actually make them work for you in your home with your time and your life. And that's the part to me that just gets so frustrating. I'm practically like sometimes yelling at the screen going, what about this? And what about this? You haven't explained that. So which one of these 7 things hit closest to home for you? Do you relate to some? Have you changed some? Drop it in the comments below for me. Let me know exactly what you're up to and what you think perhaps is one of the biggest mistakes or plant myths out there. And actually there is one more thing that frustrates me completely when I see it. And that's how every single plant video or every single short reel that you see out there says you need to give your plant bright indirect light. I mean, what does that even mean? What is that? Well, I've actually got a whole video on exactly what that is. I've tried to explain exactly what it means, what it looks like, and how to get it in your home. So I recommend you go and watch that one next. I'll leave the link right here for you on one of these sides. Anyway, so that's it for today's video. Have an amazing week full of leaves, love, and laughter, and maybe just go and grab that bathroom plant. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. See you later. Bye. Things we do for TV. Now there's a mess on the floor.